Good evening, everyone. My name's Alistair, and this is my week for the evening reflection. I was running through my head a few kind of ideas I might like to do a reflection on topics, and one that popped up was death. And Sabrina, when I suggested it to her, kind of just groaned. She knows me well enough to know that it would be a terrible topic for me to do, and especially one in such a short length of time. But then actually it got me thinking about legacy, which is very much linked with death, but is something I guess I have been thinking a lot about recently, and even more so even just yesterday when my eldest son turned 4. Recently, we as a family were really blessed earlier in this year in March to go to Uruguay, which is where Sabrina, my wife, was born. We met up with this man. While he might look like a member of the Italian mafia, he's actually a younger version of Sabrina's grandfather. And a big driver of the trip was to see him one last time before he passed away, which he did a couple of weeks ago. Now, in terms of legacy, this is a man I've met a couple of times in my life. I can hardly interact with because I speak very little Spanish. He speaks even less English. But what I've heard about this man is incredible. The story I've heard is that he was converted to Christianity as a teen. He was one of 9 siblings and proceeded to essentially convert his whole family, speak to them about his faith. From there, he had 7 children himself and brought them up in a household without electricity or running water, 2 bedrooms in the house. Yet all of those siblings, one of whom is Sabrina's mother, have grown up strong in the faith, knowing who Christ is and what he's done for them. And then 3rd generation, as well as Sabrina and all her cousins, have, for the most part, really strong faith as well. Now, for me, joining this family, it was quite scary for me. Like, I at times feel like the only Christian in my family and my wider family. And to go into a family where there was just this kind of Christian base was quite scary, but also wonderful. Proverbs 13, verse 22 reads, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, but the sinner's wealth is laid up for the righteous." Now, a lot of people, when they think of legacy, when they think of inheritance, like that passage, they're thinking of money, they're thinking of cash. But actually, if you take a step back and look at the person, biblically and historically, who's left the biggest legacy, it is Christ. Now, Christ didn't have any money, he didn't have possessions to leave, and he also didn't have children. So as Christians then, when we think about what we might want to do in the future, what we might want to do with our lives, how we interact with people, as we do that, we're actually leaving a legacy. And as Christians, the hope is that that legacy that we're leaving through interactions, through the relationships we have, family, friends, church, home group, work, that the legacy we're leaving is pointing towards Christ. And I think that's so encouraging to me is when I hear these stories of people who are so well remembered, and it's not for the wealth that they've passed on, it's not for the earthly inheritance that they've left, but it's a heavenly inheritance that they've left, the heavenly legacy that they have passed on through the generations. So sometimes I get a bit too worked up, in a sense, about thinking, how can I ensure the security of my children going forward? Is there an inheritance I can leave there? What does that future look like? But actually, taking a step back, as a Christian, I should be following Christ, and instead I should be saying that the legacy that I most want to leave should be and can be that relationship with Christ.